And I believe you all can see the screen and hear me. If you have any audio issues, any difficulties or issues in the screen, do let us know, fix the issue from your end. If it is the audio part, try to rejoin if the problem persists so that we can have uninterrupted sessions. So before we begin, let me introduce myself. I'm Preethi here. I'll be your instructor for the complete course. I have almost 16 years of experience into IT, worked in different roles, worked in various technologies, tools, and the projects. And right now I'm working as a DevOps manager, leading multiple projects. And I'm Kubernetes and Terraform certified and expertise in these areas as well. So I'll be covering the course content, and the main agenda of this course is covering the real scenario so that this will help you to work in the projects independently and clear your interviews. For people who want to make a switch over in your career, like a switch over your role to DevOps, this is the best place, and this is where you are in the right hands. Right. Like I said, we'll be zooming into every section of it and we'll analyze thoroughly so that you can keep them, implement them in your projects. It's not just learning the topic and moving on. We'll see the practical implementation. It will be the complete hands-on project-oriented course. And as we go by today, it is an overview, the complete big picture you'll get about what is DevOps, why DevOps, what are the roles of a DevOps person, who are eligible to learn this, who fits into this DevOps role. All these topics will be discussed. It would be a high level discussion, which will give you the complete agenda of the course. All right. And also, I would like to tell you, this is a heterogeneous batch. Always we'll have a batch from different experience levels, different streams, different backgrounds of education and work experience. Like any beginner can learn this course, or else any experienced person, even though you are 10 years experience, 12 years experience in I2, but in a different role, let's say you're working as a tester or a developer, or whatever it is, right? This course is eligible for all of you. Like I have designed this course keeping in mind all of these factors, and everyone should benefit from the course. And dealing with any part, like it may be a any tool, or else the DevOps strategies, or else the DevOps rules, whatever it is, we'll be dealing from the basics. Assuming that we are all new, we'll be going from the basics to the advanced concepts so that it is really helpful for you and like everyone. It is helpful. That is the point of or else that's a point kept in mind while designing this course. So let me talk about the big picture of today's class. Like what is the agenda of today's class? Like I already mentioned, we'll be talking about like what is a DevOps, roles, responsibilities of a DevOps engineer, DevOps delivery pipeline, like we call it as CI/CD, right? And the tools and the skills. These are the topics will be talking about. So let us begin with a big picture of DevOps, like what is DevOps, why DevOps, and all. And when we begin, like please keep muted. You can unmute and speak out if you have any question, right? And if you have any personal queries like about your role and how you want to make a switch, if you have any personal queries, we'll discuss towards the end of the topic. So let us begin with. Can we begin? And expecting your interaction and confirmation at the point regular intervals, like to proceed ahead. And
Yes, ma'am.
that
Please.
we're all good and full.
Yes.
Okay. So let us talk about what is DevOps. I definitely believe that some of you might be aware of what is DevOps. Some of you also might be into it, and there will be also people who are new to it. Like I mentioned, let's start from the beginning and see what it is all about. As the name says, it's a combination of two terms or two teams, let's say, right? Development team and operations team. So who are developers? Like you may call them as programmers or developers, or who write the code, who design the application, right? Basically. And who are the ops teams? let's say admins or network technicians or else database DBA. I'm keeping all of them into ops, right? Operations tasks. And the task of developers or programmers is to write the code. They work in designing the application, they work in building the application, and so on, right? And here ops teams work for managing the servers, right? Managing the services running on those servers. They work for access, logins, and so on. Right? So I'm just trying to detail brief the things of what a development team and ops team does. And of course, to develop, or else, let's say you are using some application in the real world. Let's say you are using some Amazon.com, or else you are using some Facebook.com. There's so many teams involved in you are using an application as an end user means there's so many teams involved at the back end, right? Like development team, ops team, QA team, testing team, and so many teams are there. Here I'm talking about these three teams in particular. So yes, developers work for designing the application, building it, and testers, QA people, quality professionals, they work for checking the quality of the application. They run some test case and so on, basically called as testing. So let's suppose, okay, developers, if they have to write some code, or else testers have to test the code or check the quality of the application. They need some servers. Basically, they need some environments or platforms. Or maybe tomorrow they want to check a new test scenario. So they may need some changes to the infrastructure. So whenever development team, operations team needs some changes to the infra, they would request the ops teams, right? They would request the ops teams and ops teams would serve the request. This is how it works in reality. So ops teams provide the required infra for these teams. So let's suppose, okay, let's assume this development team or QA team. See, I have brought development and QA to the same umbrella and I'm calling them as dev team from now. Why we are doing this also, I'll tell you. So let's suppose I'm clubbing both of them as a dev team. So dev team has raised some requests for the infra. Now ops team have to provide the change they need. So during this time or meanwhile, ops team provides their change. Dev team are waiting for their infra with those changes. Ops team are still working on it. And for ops teams to serve the request, they need to check lot many things. Like if this change is made, is the infra going to be stable? Any services going to be down? Any networks going to be disconnected? Right? They need to check all these things before they serve the request. Correct? Meanwhile, developers are waiting for the change they need and ops teams are taking some time to serve the request because they do have their own challenges. Meantime, what happens? Developers are thinking that ops team is taking too much time, or else they were doing very slowly. They were providing the infra in a very delayed state. Ops teams think that why developers should need this change very frequently. Because these two teams, or else these three teams, whatever you consider it, their core skills or else their areas of expertise are different. If you see developers does no coding, testers no testing, they would use manual testing, automation testing. If it's automation, again, there were different test tools. Developers would be writing the code using different programming languages and so on. Whereas ops teams, their skill set is different. Developers' skill set is different. Their core areas of expertise are different. Meaning developers can't understand why ops team is taking so much time to serve the request. Similarly, ops team doesn't understand why should they request all these changes every time or very frequently. Means basically ops teams look for stability in the infra, whereas developers look for agility in the infra. They need changes to serve their or else to execute their task. Maybe a new operating system to test something or else so and so environment to build the code kind of. So their areas, their core skill set is different. Their core competencies are different. And also they don't have understanding of what other team is doing. Means each team is working in silos, in a separation, without having knowledge of what other team is doing. Right? Because of this, there arises some gap between these teams. Because there is no proper communication, no collaboration. There will be no proper communication because their skill set is different. Each team has got its own skill set. So whatever challenges they have, other teams cannot understand. So there is a gap between the teams, right? So how to overcome the gap between these teams? Is there any way we can eliminate the gap and make these teams friendly, collaborate well, so that each one understand challenges of others, requirements of others? When you understand others, yes, obviously you can deliver them better, right? You can deliver the quality content, right? Maybe if or admins, if ops teams understand why developers need that, if they have empathy toward developers, they may pace up their activities, right? Similarly, if developers understand why ops teams will take this time, why they were having challenges, they would be coming up with a proper documentation or proper communication of why they need these changes. Agree with me, everyone? Any questions? Anything you want to say here? Are we good?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
You can unmute and confirm, or else you can give a thumbs up. That will help me to proceed with your confirmation and ensure that you're all with me on the same page. Good to go.
Okay.
Right. Right. So how to eliminate this gap between the teams? And by the way, I would like to again mention, we were talking about why DevOps came. See, when you are learning something new, it could be technology or it could be anything else in our daily life. When you are learning something, you should know why you need it, correct? Why DevOps? And then you should know what is DevOps. So we were trying to make these things clear, and I'm just trying to help you understand why DevOps came into picture. So one of the reasons is, yes, to eliminate the gap between the teams. This is one of the reasons. Again, you might be having a question like why we should eliminate the gap. This one I answered, but I'll tell you how DevOps will eliminate the gap also. I'll tell you in some time today. So first reason is there is a gap. To eliminate this gap between the teams, and teams should work in proper collaboration, proper understanding. How this will happen, I'll answer you. But before that, let's also talk about the other reasons. One of the reasons is to eliminate the gap. And the second reason is to eliminate the gap and also to automate the complete process and speed up the deployments. Why do you need it? Right? Why you should automate it? Yeah, let me talk about it. Let's suppose now I'm talking about the traditional approach, not the DevOps approach. Let's say developers is completed his code. He will share their means development team will application to testing. Testing team will test that.
Why?
Please keep muted everyone if you don't have any questions. If you don't have any questions, please keep muted so that we can avoid any background noise. So developers will complete, let's say they completed the code, they'll hand over the application to testing team, right? So once you hand over the application to testing team will test the application. This thing, I believe every one of you know, right? Testers will test the application. They'll find the bugs, defects. If they have any defects, they will send it to developers. Developers will fix the code, and this process keep on continuing, right? Let's suppose once the application is defect free, app is defect free. There were no defects. Application is absolutely fine with no defects, right? So they will hand over this to the ops teams. This is the traditional approach without DevOps. So when they hand over this application to the ops teams have to deploy it and make sure that is available to the end users, right? So to deploy it and make it available to end users, it takes some months. Why some months? Because see, let's take an again the example as, let's say it's a Java application. So ops team should work on which servers they should deploy it, which version of Java they should use, right? Which version of other dependencies. There might be some other dependencies for your application. So which version they should work on, the versions, compatibilities, the OS type. They should figure out all of these things and they should deploy this application, correct? Which takes some months, because whenever they hand over the application to ops teams, it's their responsibility to deploy and see the application is running. Also, these developers may hand over some instruction document which will have instructions of which version of Java or which version of Tomcat, all the dependencies required for the application. But the instruction document provided by this dev and test team, right, may not be working in reality, or else it might be working on Windows servers, might not be on Linux machines, or else these instructions might be delivered some couple of months back. Versions might have been updated. They might not be working in reality as on when ops team is using it. Also, the instructions passed by dev team may not be understood by ops teams, right? Sometimes they may not be working. These are all the practical challenges we have. Not only this, once application is deployed, ops team should take care of its high availability. And if something is broken, they should come and immediately fix this so that the application is always available for end users, right? All of them should be taken care by ops teams, which should take definitely some months, and it's taking a lot of time for the application to reach the end users. So how to speed up this process of deployment? Correct? Is there any way we can automate this process? Right? This is the second challenge. Yes, this was automated with the DevOps approach. DevOps came in where we'll use different tools to automate the whole process of deployment. Let's say a feature is delivered today or like some couple of hours back, that can go to production servers and end users in couple of hours and couple of minutes in production. These days, that is possible with DevOps, right? Am I making sense? How is it possible? By use of the tools. There is a tool stack which can be used to make this possible. Not only just the tools, we have to implement the DevOps strategies, the right tools in the right way, right at the right time. And the process of deployment also changed. Meaning, please listen this carefully. Like I said earlier, developers or like the testing team, like once the application is ready, once it is tested, once it is defect free, they were handing over it to the ops teams, right? Now they will hand over to the DevOps team, but what they'll hand over, the way of handover also changed. Means earlier, let's say if it is Java, they used to share this var file or a jar file. The deployable file, the artifact they used to share directly. But now the artifact completely changed, which would be a Docker image. Means developers will hand over the application to DevOps team as a Docker image by containerizing their code. They were not just handing over that artifact directly. Rather, nowadays in the DevOps approach, the artifact was a Docker image. Means what is it? How it makes a difference? That is going to be a separate chapter, separate sessions we are going to have on containerization, Docker images and all. Here, I'll just give you a clue that if they share this Docker image, DevOps team, there will be no need for DevOps team to struggle with the underlying versions, compatibilities of your application. Means in short, this Docker image or a Docker container, you can imagine like a pack which comes with this artifact, the actual code artifact, like the var file and the dependencies like Java, Tomcat, whatever it is with the right versions, let's say Java 11 and so on. So they just run this Docker image on different servers. They don't need to struggle about the versions, compatibilities for the application. So it eliminated this environmental differences. This is too early to discuss this, but I'm just trying to give a very big picture, high level overview. Just ignore it and understand that the way the applications were handed over, to the teams have totally changed. Now it becomes very easy for DevOps team to deploy it on any server. Means the way of packaging, the way of deployment got changed. Am I clear? Which makes the deployments faster. And how is this possible? By use of the tools like Docker, containerization, and many others, right? So the process changed. Here a point to note. When I say the way they were handing over the application changed, you have to understand that, let's say you are a developer for 10 years. You still want to continue as a developer only because you have passion for development. Let's say an example. You don't want to become a DevOps person, but still you should know these Docker and DevOps concepts. Am I correct or not? Because the way they were handing over the application is completely being changed. So developers should know how do they containerize and share their application to the DevOps teams for deployments. Am I making sense? So what I mean to say here is, even though you don't want to become a DevOps person, you still want to be a developer or a tester, even then everyone should know the strategy, right? One of the reason is the way you are developing, the way you are packaging your application has completely changed, which brought the DevOps approach, which will speed up the deployments. So everyone should learn it, right? Also, one more thing, like who are eligible to become a DevOps person? Again, let me take an example. You are a developer for 10 years or a tester for 10 years. Let's say now you want to work on this DevOps strategies, deployments and all. So then you will be working at this point, at this stage, right? You don't need to write the code at that point of time if you are working in DevOps strategy. There'll be always a separate development team who will write the code, separate testing team who will test the code. But now they were using some tools and technologies and strategies which everyone should know, like a Docker. So unlike in the earlier days or in the traditional approach, they were not just handing over the WAR file or JAR file, rather they were sharing the Docker image. So this is common for everyone. DevOps teams knows this Docker image, Docker containerization and all. Even developers knows this. So they were common areas of interest or common areas, core competencies are common. Some of them are common. So they understand the way they were handing over, the challenges they were facing and all. That's how the teams were brought together. They were working in proper collaboration, proper understanding, understanding the challenges of others. Are we good with the second pointer now? Got an idea of how they were coming closer? See, all these teams work with a proper collaboration, proper understanding. Doesn't mean that a DevOps person should be writing the code, should be writing the test cases. No. It means that they understand the process. They have good grip on how the application is handing over. They know the Docker images, containerization and all. Even developers know the challenges that comes with the Docker, the way they were containerizing. That's how they interact, and they have common areas of expertise, common areas of understanding. So the teams were brought together to eliminate the gap, which speeds up the deployments as well. Are we good and following everyone? Any queries?
Yeah, we are
No,
good.
no.
Thank you, Raju, Jai Prakash, for confirming. Thank you for all who have confirmed. So can I proceed, or any questions or anything you want to share? Anyone? Are we good?
Yeah, we are good.
So yeah, the way the applications are handing over has been changed, right? Basically, the way of packaging, the way of deployments were changed, which brought complete automation, and deployments were faster deployments, right? And then what else? Or any other reasons? Yes, the other reason is to overcome the challenges that are posed by traditional software methodologies. Right? What are the traditional software methodologies? By the way, what is SDLC? Here, my idea is not to teach you SDLC, just to give, or let's talk about a very high level on this. For anyone new to this, SDLC is nothing but software development lifecycle, which involves sequence of activities which leads to development of an application. Like, first it begins with requirement gathering, collect the requirements, right? Then requirement analysis, and then comes the design part, and then coding, testing, delivery and maintenance. These are the different phases involved in developing an application, right? And also here, each phase goes one after the other. I believe you understood. I'm talking about the typical waterfall methodology. There were different methodologies. Waterfall methodology is one such methodology which has got lot many challenges. Dev team and ops teams face lot many challenges because of this methodology. Even though it served the industry for decades, there were so many challenges. Can anyone point the challenges faced by dev teams because of this methodology? What are the challenges dev teams faced? This methodology was very slow, right? Like code is, let's say coding is done today, it would be tested after 6 months. Meanwhile, developers will be working on new code, right? Testers then comes and test the old code, comes bugs in the old code. Now developers have to work in the old code to fix the bugs, as well as they have to work on the new code. They have lot of pressure handling this. Testing should be done immediately, or else testing done at the earlier stages would be economical, efficient, because people doesn't remember why they wrote this code or why this requirement made, or else it would be very difficult and takes time to fix those bugs in the old code which was developed some 6 months back, right? And the other thing is, other reasons are not flexible enough. Means, like I said, this model just goes in one direction, like requirement gathering, analysis, design, coding, and so on. It just goes one after the other, right? Like only one after coding, testing begins, after testing, delivery, and so on. It just doesn't happen. Let's suppose, okay, client comes with, let's suppose you are in coding phase. Clients comes with new requirements. Accommodating new requirements will not be possible. Suppose you got the requirements in 2024, January. Requirements will be freezed. There will be no more new requirements accepted or modifications accepted, and with the same requirements for product will be delivered maybe after 2 years. It would be a very slow process. So without accepting any changes, modifications in between, if you are delivering it after 2 years, client doesn't need this anymore because it's a customer facing world. Business changes rapidly, right? If you don't accept any requirements within these 2 years, it doesn't work at all. So that's another challenge. Like complete software is all delivered at once after some 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is. These are all some of the challenges faced by dev team. Similarly, ops team face the challenges because it's a slow methodology. You have to maintain the servers for longer duration, right? Manually, I'm talking about everything manual. No proper configuration management. Configuration management is again separate chapter. We have separate tool like Ansible to talk about it. Here, just let me tell you, it's like you don't know what is happening on which server at what time. No proper control over the infra, right? Because everything is manual. And also monitoring, poor monitoring. No proper monitoring tools, or else they were again manual. If there were just 5 servers or 2 servers, monitoring them manually will be possible. What if you have huge infra? Correct? So that's another challenge. So these are all some of the challenges posed by this waterfall methodology, right? So how are those challenges overcome? How to overcome these challenges posed by this waterfall methodology? Any idea, anyone? How they were overcome actually?
Agile methodology.
Yeah, Agile methodology came in then, right? Agile came in to overcome these challenges. What is Agile again? Agile is a methodology where there will be releases, frequent releases. There might be a release every week or every alternative week. Bug fixing became faster because whenever code is developed, it would be tested immediately. Code is always stable and ready for release. Means like, how is this possible? Again, I'm telling you, don't need to learn this Agile and all, just how it overcomes the challenges. It overcomes the challenges because Agile implements the concept of continuous development, continuous testing, and continuous integration. What is meant by that? Let me tell you. Suppose, let's say on week 1, a chunk of code A was developed. Means code will be developed in bits and parts. Let's say code A, a part of code is developed. On week 2, this particular code A will be going for testing immediately. Meanwhile, developers are not sitting idle. They'll be developing another chunk of code called B. On next week, like week 3, again this A and B will be combined and tested. Right? Then only it makes a complete products, right? Meanwhile, they might be developing some other bits of code like C. So this keep on happening. If you notice every week, both the testing and development and happening, right? So that's what is continuous development and continuous testing. And integration, like any code developed will be merged into the system and the entire system would be tested to make sure it is doing well with existing code or the existing pattern, right? So because they implement this, releases were faster because every week it is tested and ready. It could be released every 15 days. They can release, and any new modifications, new additional requirements can be accepted and released in the next cycle, next sprint, right? Bug fixing is faster because this week it is developed immediately. It's going for testing. Code is always stable and ready for release, right? Because they implemented this. So meaning, I would say this methodology has overcome the challenges faced by dev team, but not by ops team. Challenges posed or faced by ops teams were still there. It has overcome challenges of this, but challenges of ops team are still there. This is still there, right? Okay. So these challenges were still in place. So how to overcome this? That's where again DevOps came in. We already discussed about the second one. And the third one is challenges of traditional methodologies. And second one is to make the deployments faster. So how DevOps will overcome the challenges? In DevOps, we have continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, along with the continuous deployment and continuous monitoring. This is possible, like everything is automated. Even after integration, it would be deployed with the use of a tools, which make this possible. The term continuous is important, which is nothing but DevOps. Meaning, if you want, so these are the reasons why DevOps came in, right? Now, let me talk about what is DevOps. DevOps is a process, a methodology. Okay, it's not something like a tool or a programming language, or it's not that sort. It's a methodology. It's a process, right? What is this process of continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring, right? And this is called CI/CD, means from the desk of a developer. Whenever developer is ready with the code and testers are ready with the test case, and let's say the application is tested, and it should reach the production table automatically. This complete process involved in between, this is what is DevOps. Means once code is ready, once it is tested, means testers will write the test cases, they would be executed automatically. So whoever want to involve in this phases, means in this part before your code reaches the production table, this is what is DevOps. And this is called CI/CD pipeline. So whoever know the CI/CD strategies and the tools which makes the automations to production possible can become a DevOps person. You might be a developer, tester, DBA, or middleware person, or whoever you are coming from which background. If you know this part, if you know the tools, or if you know this part of automation, that's what is DevOps. And if you want to work in this part, you have to learn this DevOps strategies and become a DevOps person. If you still want to remain a developer or tester, yes, you can, but still, because teams were working in hand now, the way of packaging, the way of deployments changed. You should know how your code is being deployed, because If they come back with the issues, you should be able to understand what's happening. So it's everyone that should learn DevOps, even though you don't want to become a DevOps person. But if you are working in that strategy, definitely you should know the strategy, right? Is this much clear for all of you?
Yes. Yes, Preethi. Yes.
Yes.
And let me differentiate this demos with respect to different methodologies. Let's say you talk about a waterfall methodology. Okay, we already differentiated, but just I am summarizing here. In waterfall methodology, we used to have development. Once development is completed, then only testing begins. Once completely it is tested, then it would be delivered and monitored, everything manual and also everything happening one after the other. But in Agile, continuous development and continuous testing means, like I said, development or testing are happening every week, right? So continuous integration. But then again, delivery and monitoring are manual. Sorry for the bigger font. I doesn't mean it. It's just monitor. Okay. Then came DevOps, continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, along with the continuous delivery or deployments, and then continuous monitoring. Everything is automated. This is called CI/CD pipeline. Means once developer write the code, it would be pulled and executed test case automatically. Means testing team is still there. They'll write the test case. Those test case will be executed, integrated automatically, deployed automatically. First to lower environments. First deploy to smaller environments like maybe a staging environment or a test environment and so on. Dev environment, test environment, staging environment, UAT, and then to pre-prod and then to prod. Everything is automated one after the other. And also once it is deployed, monitoring for continuous alerts or continuous watch on how the application is performing, how the environment is doing, thereby ensuring high availability. Right? Got the difference? And if you want me to differentiate with respect to teams, there used to be a development team, QA team, ops team. Each team working in isolation, in separation. They don't know, developers don't know why ops team is taking so much time to provide the infra. They are just working in isolation, in silos, in separation. But in Agile, because development and testing are happening, these two teams were brought together. They were working with proper collaboration, proper communication, proper understanding. It doesn't mean that a tester is writing the code. No. When I say they were brought together, they were understanding with proper communication, and hence we may refer it as dev team. That's why I told in the beginning, I'm keeping them in the same umbrella. But ops team is still left in isolation. That's why gap is there, even though it's Agile is there. But then with the DevOps, even these two teams were brought together. Because it's all continuous pipeline, the process is happening hand in hand. That's what is called DevOps. Now, yes, DevOps means it's a separate team, but still they work with proper communication with development team, QA team. QA team is separate. It's there. Development separately is there, but they were working in hand. Proper collaboration, proper understanding. They were not just sharing the artifact as it is to the ops team so that they'll struggle with the underlying versions compatibilities, right? They were sharing with enough the way of packaging changed. So they were sharing in a way where DevOps team can deploy it on any environment seamlessly. Thereby, deployments were faster. Do you ever imagine in the real world, if you talk about any online shopping application or any application or any online banking application, you see some features overnight, right? Let's say some pandemic happened. Immediately you see a feature in an hour, correct? Like let's say, okay, this area, during COVID time, you might have noticed, okay, we are having COVID rise in this particular area. We are stopping deliveries or else we are providing more support to this area, kind of notifications in different apps. How could an alert or else how could the functionality of the application or else a new feature coming up so quickly in an hour, correct? That's where DevOps comes in. Means any code developed by developer wrote the code. Immediately it could reach the production table. Of course, by following all this process, it reaches the production table in couple of minutes also. That is the game these days. Nowadays, almost all the bigger companies are doing this. Facebook is a best example, one of the best examples who implement DevOps, right? Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, all these gigantic companies are implementing it because that's what they need, right? It's complete process automated. It's 24/7 automation possible, no human intervention. Means initially to build the CI/CD, you may need more people. But once it is built, the whole thing is automated, right? You don't need manual intervention. That's what companies need, right? Faster deliveries. And because it is automated, no manual errors, it's qualitative product, right? Here, every change will go through this process. So you can imagine quality improves, faster deployments, less manual intervention, no manual intervention or less manual intervention. That's what organizations need. Correct? So everyone is stepping into it. In couple of years, even very small companies, each of them will migrate to this. So this is the right time to invest your effort, time, and learn such a tools, master them, and whoever are having the skill set or whoever gain expertise on this strategies of DevOps will survive in the market in the coming future. Hope you got the difference of like what is DevOps, why DevOps, and who are eligible for it. I believe I answered those questions. If you have any queries or anything, you can ask. Are we good or any questions from anyone?
Yeah, Preethi, I have a question.
Hmm. Tell me, please.
What would be the job market? Because as far as I know, comparatively since last 2 years, there was due to pandemic, companies has hired many DevOps engineers. That was very in a peak moment. But since we started returning back to office, so do you still suggest that to focus more on DevOps, or is there any along with DevOps, or should we focus on any other tools?
See here, DevOps is like it's a methodology or a strategy. It's a process. But to implement this process, you need many tools and skill set. Okay, we'll be talking about that skill set in a while. So that's how DevOps works. You need to implement so many tools and strategies to achieve what we were talking about now, to automate and improve the quality, automate 24/7 and all. Now, coming to the pandemic, it doesn't have to do anything with the pandemic. Now, companies are moving to this automation approach. That's why obviously there'll be more recruitment for DevOps. When you compare with any other roles in Indian market as of today also, DevOps is having huge demand and huge openings when compared with any other technologies. DevOps is a methodology. To implement this methodology, yes, you need some idea on different tools. You need to know, you need to be expertise on different tools as per the job description, as per that project requirement. So all these tools, the platform needs, all of that will come in. But the strategy remains the same. The demand for it remains same. Like I said, every company will be stepping into it. Definitely, this is going to be the future. Already it is been implemented. That's going to continue also. Okay. And see here, what is DevOps? This is whatever we have discussed, it's well documented here for you to refer later. All this presentation access you will have. I'll talk about the access, the materials and all in a while. But yeah, whatever we discussed, this is all here. So why DevOps came in, like what is DevOps and all, and the differences between the three methodologies like we discussed. And now let's talk about roles and responsibilities of a DevOps person. See, we'll be deep diving into the roles and responsibilities like every day once we start the course. But here I'll again give you a high level picture. Like here in the CI/CD part, like once developer is ready with the code, you have to move the code to the production table automatically, right? So you have to work on the any part in this particular CI/CD pipeline, any stages, any phases in this pipeline. That's one of your roles. Not only that, to have your infra ready to deploy these your deployments, or else the way you implement the CI/CD, you need the infra, right? You need to monitor the health of the applications. You need to manage your infra. You may have to like have a control on the infra. All of these would be the roles and responsibilities of a DevOps person. Basically, to build the CI/CD pipelines, to take care of the CI/CD pipelines. If something is broken, you need to fix it. You need to work on the underlying infrastructure you are using for this DevOps pipelines. You have to work on the infrastructure management through code. Like we'll be creating again infrastructure through Terraform. So all of this comes under the roles and responsibilities of a DevOps person. Okay. We will deep dive into those as we start the hands-on. And here are the skills and the tool set. This is just a very brief or the high level list of tools I have written here. Like we'll be learning Git. What is Git? Why do you need Git? We will be discussing all of them. Okay, I'm just going through the tools here. Git, Maven, Jenkins, Docker, Ansible, Terraform, both of them we'll be learning it. Similarly, Kubernetes, Docker Swarm, Prometheus, Grafana, certain AWS services, whichever we need for DevOps. All of this will be covered. This is, like I said, a brief list. You have the detailed content on the website. You can also visit there. And like you see here, version control system. Git is a version control system. There were so many tools under version control systems. Means there were so many version control systems like Git, SVN, TFS. Similarly, build automation tools, Maven is covered. Again, there were so many other build automation tools like Gradle and so on. Here the point is you should learn and expertise one tool under the category. Learning all other tools in the same category will not be required or will not be helpful. Like you don't need to learn SVN, Git, whatever is there here, SVN, TFS, everything. Learning one tool under each category is enough. You expertise one tool in each category. And also here we are covering the tools which are the master leaders, which are more widely used, meaning you have more opportunities to get into the projects. Even though you want to work on any other tool, if you master one tool, working or switching with other tools are very simple. They can be self-explanatory, right? I'm explaining this because people might be having question like, what about SVN, TFS? Should we learn all the tools? No. You learn and expertise one tool in the category, in each category, right? Here, AWS services, when I talk about AWS services, DevOps is a strategy and methodology. Because again, people will have queries here. So I'm trying to answer it. DevOps is a methodology or strategy which can be implemented on any platform. It can be on cloud, it could be on-premise, it could be anywhere. It's irrespective of the platform. So we'll be learning DevOps in such a way that after learning this, you could implement it on any platform, right? Also, we will be learning it on AWS so that you will also get exposure to one cloud. Right, that's the idea. Again, if you people might be having, should I do it on AWS or Azure or GCP? Any cloud is fine. If you learn one cloud, others would be similar again. Companies were, when we sit in the interview panels, like people are expecting, companies are expecting people to get familiarity or get knowledge on one cloud, so that they can work in any cloud. Even though we have requirement like we need people for GCP, if you know Azure or if you know AWS, we are good to go. Because the trend is like tomorrow another cloud may come up, right? There are huge tool stack. The main thing companies would see is whether he's flexible enough and adopt to new technologies or not. That's the point here. Right? If you know one cloud, yes, you should be able to adopt and work on other clouds because that would be similar. That's what the companies expect. So you don't need to worry or struggle about learning all the clouds, all the tools. Learn one tool in each category, learn one cloud, you are good to go. Right? So yeah, these are the things will be covered on under AWS. Again, the services like EC2, EKS, a managed service, S3 buckets, all of these will be covered. Elastic Beanstalk, code commit, code build, code deploy, all these services will be covered. EKS, a managed service will be covered, which is the far advanced and the real way of you deploying or using your Kubernetes clusters. I'm just giving a brief. You can also visit the website for the detailed course content. Any questions on this tool set? Any questions on this page? And to execute some of the tools here, we definitely need Linux servers. So if anyone is new to Linux, you don't need to worry here again. We'll be also learning Linux from the basics. We'll learn the Linux whichever we need to get started with. Okay, the basics of Linux will be covered. So it would be simple so that anyone can get in and use. So whatever needed for the course, we are teaching here. So no need of any prerequisite, and you don't need to have coding skills or scripting skills. In DevOps, we don't work on the code like developers do. We work on the templates. Template will be there. You have to modify and work with it. So that anyone can do it. So if people have that kind of hesitations or inhibitions about coding and all, you will not write the code as developers. There's a separate team of developers for that. And yes, this is the CI/CD pipeline I'm talking about. Like developer write the code and place it on Git. Again, I'm telling you, there's a very high level big picture. Okay, like what is Git, why Git and all we will learn. But yeah, once developer write the code, it will be built. See, continuous builds. This is continuous development, continuous builds, continuous testing, continuous deployment, continuous monitoring. This is what your CI/CD. And here, if you see Git is involved, Jenkins, Maven, some test automation tool written by testers. I mean, some test automation tool and the test cases written by testers, right? And then deployment using Docker, Kubernetes, managing the infra with Ansible, Terraform, and then monitoring with Grafana and Prometheus. This could be implemented on any platform. It could be on-prem or on cloud. As an example, we were also doing this on cloud so that you get exposure to one cloud. That's the idea of keeping AWS here. Here, how we'll proceed is, we will build the CI/CD on multiple applications. We will build it on a simple monolithic application, and also we will build it on a microservice application like PHP database, right? We'll be building this pipeline or two applications in our course. And also to build this application, it takes some couple of months. That's what we'll be doing in the course. And during this process, we'll be zooming into each section. Like first we will learn Git, we will master it. Then we will learn Jenkins. Then we will integrate and create the pipeline till this part. Then we will go and learn Docker. Then we will add the other part. That's how we will build this pipeline day by day, adding each section. We will be zooming into each section, each tool thoroughly from basics till advanced. And then we will build step by step and complete this pipeline. That is the whole agenda of the course. Today, I'm giving you this high level picture of how we'll proceed. Tomorrow, we will be starting with Git, the first tool in the course. If you take any tool, first we'll be talking about what is it, why do we need it, the architecture and the complete hands-on till advanced concept, ensuring that you would clear any sort of question, any sort of interview question, as well as you can work in the project. Then we will start with Linux basics and Maven and then Jenkins. And then come back and build our pipeline. Means as and when you learn a tool, you come back and implement it. That's how step by step you build the pipeline throughout your course on two applications so that you will gain more exposure. That is the whole plan. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, one question, Preethi. So here continuous testing means it's a testing a new feature or the regression part?
It could
I
be
mean,
any sort of testing in the pipeline. Means again, it depends. Whenever developer write the new code, right, it would be tested in every run. Means whenever developer write the code, it would be pulled, built, tested, and so on. This testing, when I say tested, it would be again different levels of automation testing happens. It could be integration testing, it could be regression test cases. It depends on what test cases were included in the pipeline. Depends on like which way you are deploying it and where you are deploying this pipeline. It
Okay,
might
you
be going
mean
to staging servers, UAT, pre-prod, and so on. Accordingly, whether it is regression testing or integration testing, depends.
okay, you mean the new features are also automated before they got deployed?
New features will be tested, deployed to lower environments, then deployed to higher environments like production. You will have different pipelines, okay, on different servers. Once dev pipeline is successful, it would be deploying onto test servers. Then it would be deployed to stage servers, then UAT, pre-prod, and then to prod.
Okay.
All of them through automation. So if you're deploying to UAT or something staging, then your test case might be the integration test cases. If you're deploying to test environment itself, it might be unit test case in the pipeline. So your test cases changes here. Clear?
Yeah, okay.
Is the test done by DevOps team or the testing team?
Testing team. We have a separate testing team who will write their automation test cases. This pipeline will execute those test cases. That's it. As a DevOps person, you should know how do you execute the test cases given by testers. Means, okay, let's say Selenium test case are given. As a DevOps person, you know how to automate their execution in this pipeline here. Are we good?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Preethi. Venkat here.
Hi, Venkat.
Yeah. Like Amazon AWS, we are deploying our Docker images into Azure DevOps also, part of this course, or how it will be.
We'll be deploying, we'll be doing this on AWS in a
Okay.
way that you could implement it on any cloud or on-prem server also. Like I said, DevOps is a methodology. Irrespective of the platform, it works. But anyway, we will be, means after this course, you'll be able to do it on any platform. Of course, like a little change might be there. The name of the services will be different, but the analogy, the concepts would be remain same on any cloud. On AWS, we'll be covering here. So every day, like after the class, you have to, like once you are registered, you will get access to all of this content. Let me show you about the lab setup and the how we will be dealing with the assignments and all. So yeah, once registered, you will get access to this. Every day there will be a quiz portal. Means there will be a portal where you can take up the quiz. Like today we were talking about the intro part, right? That quiz I'll share it today in some minutes. In 5 minutes, I'm going to share that with you. And see here, every tool, let's say once we start Git, like we are going to start Git tomorrow and it would be complete hands-on from tomorrow because DevOps is more of practical. So on day one, you have to go through this quiz, right? So you have quiz to assess yourself, right? To register the concepts, to test your understanding, you have quizzes here, right? Which you have to take up after each day. And not only that, you have the assignments available, right? You have tools, let's say Git, we are going to start Git with tomorrow. Here are the lab assignments, okay, smaller assignments. And then as you progress, you have a bigger assignments as well. Apart from what we discussed in the class, this is the assignments you have to go through each day. And if you people are planning for an interview, you have interview questions as well. These interview questions are not just from the other website, but they were also like collected from the real interviews. With my experience, I have designed this. And you have again different levels of interview questions. Your beginners interviews, intermediate, advanced, scenario-based queries. You have everything sorted out. So each day you have to work on these things so that you can like avail maximum benefits. You have all these material to go through, right? And a separate drive will be given access to. You'll be getting access to the separate Google Drive as well, where you have the complete hands-on commands, the everything whichever we do in our class. Like today we have gone through the overview, right? You have the presentation, whichever I have used here. Again, a separate set of interview questions, sample resumes, all of this available. If you go to each folder, you have all the references again here. Right, lab setup, yes, lab setup also we will do. We will do our lab setup on AWS by taking a free account. How to set up an account and all, we will see that also. Tomorrow onwards, like I said, complete hands-on begins. We need your effort and dedication for 2 months to reach out your goals. Any questions from anyone?
Preethi, hi, Preethi, Nikhil this side.
Yeah,
So
hi, Nikhil.
I have a question. Like in your showcase of complete entire pipeline,
Hmm.
so are we going to develop any framework, automation framework, and we are scaling it to the Docker and Kubernetes level?
We were doing it and scaling it through Docker and Kubernetes, but it would not be like frameworks in DevOps. We will not have any frameworks in DevOps. Maybe the terminology you were using was different, but yeah, we will deploy our application first. We will container, like I told you, right? The way developers were sharing their application completely changed. It
So
was
for an example, you will take any kind of like project, right?
correct. That's what I told. 2 projects will be covering a monolithic application, like a Java application, and also a microservice application, like PHP-DB integrated application. So you will execute this pipeline on 2 applications end to end. Yes, we'll be containerizing it through Docker containers, deploy it on Kubernetes for high availability. Like I said, I have got expertise into Kubernetes. Personally, I am certified and I have great experience into it. So we will be looking into auto scaling in Kubernetes as well as the complete pipeline build deploying on Kubernetes cluster. Even that will be covered on with
Okay.
the managed services like EKS, which is like 50% of your clusters in the market or EKS clusters. So I am covering that EKS part as well with auto scaling, like advanced features like auto scaling, implementing it onto the pipeline, implementing load balancers with ingress. All of that will be covered where
Okay.
you see the realistic update.
Okay. So horizontal and vertical scaling, we are also going to look into this, right?
Vertical, horizontal scaling will be covering. Vertical scaling will not be possible with our lab. It's a limitation. Like we are going with a paid service, but still you can't implement it, but you will get an understanding on it.
Okay.
Again, there are different ways of auto scaling. So whatever possible with the armor limits, those will be covered.
Okay. Thank you.
Preethi, Venkat here. In the continuous deployment, how we are going to build the resources in the cloud? It's use of,
Continuous.
yeah, in the deployment stage, in the cloud side, how we are going to be build the resources? It will be the Terraform or Ansible. That's the
Terraform.
fourth.
Terraform is for provisioning the infrastructure. Once infrastructure is ready, Ansible will configure the infrastructure. So a combination is a great. People have confusion, should Ansible or Terraform. Both are 2 different tools. Okay, when you use them in the right way, you are using them in to the best. Okay. Before I talk about that, I'm launching a small quiz here on the Zoom. Okay, please take up this quiz, which is like a summarization of our discussion. There will be 1 or 2 questions out of the discussion also. Those questions are given intentionally for you to think and answer. Any questions you have on that quiz also we'll discuss. I'm launching it. Hope you all should have got that, I believe. Hope you all got that page of questionnaire.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So go through it. Meanwhile, any questions also you can ask me. Yeah, so like I'm saying, you should use the tools in the right way so that your DevOps strategies would be implementing with great productivity. Means you should implement the best practices, you should implement the right tool at the right time. These are all very important. So all of these things we will discuss as we progress. And also DevOps is a continuous process of implementation. Means some teams, like they say that we have started migrating our projects to DevOps. We were starting DevOps, and yes, it's a DevOps pipeline. But there'll be so many corrections needed there, so many best practices ignored there. So it's a continuous process, because in an overnight you won't achieve this pipeline. Even though you build the pipeline in a couple of days or months, it would need continuous modifications, improvements, right? That's a continuous process. It's a journey. As per the requirement, you should keep modifying it. You should use the right tool at the right time, at the right in the right way. All these makes your DevOps implemented. How effective it is, that's a point. Everyone will implement it, but how effective you have designed your CI/CD pipeline, that makes the difference of the outcome, difference in the outcome.
Yeah, I should pick up more question over here. In the real-time world, let's say we have some Java application. We need to access from the outside of the servers, right? From the on-premise servers to I has to access from the outside. How to be the possible those kind of idea to be from the Kubernetes or pods? How we can the traffic? It will be access from the global wise inside of the VPN, those kind of idea it will be covered over the network sites.
Like VPNs, we will not cover that. That is not possible with the lab setups we have, right? But we'll be covering like load balancers. How do you expose to the external world? Ingress routing, like how do you expose it to path-based routing? All of these things will be covered.
Okay.
And also, like we are also covering GitOps principles using Argo CD, like how you can secure your cluster and implement it through GitOps. All those will be covered as well.
Okay.
Here I have listed just like the big
Yeah.
picture, as the major tools. Again, if you dive in, there were a lot of tools that are we are going to use, like Docker Compose, Docker Swarm. Again, in Ansible, there is a lot of content over there. Again, in Kubernetes. First, one more thing, we are also covering Kubernetes on-prem. Before going to EKS, I'm also covering Kubernetes on-prem, which is gaining demand these days. So people with the Kubernetes on-prem knowledge are very less. They are having huge demand. Even that will be covered here. How do you set up your cluster on-prem? How it is different from EKS? Because people are jumping in and using the cloud services without knowing how Kubernetes actually works. That's been a drawback. Because you don't know like what is happening in the back end. You just jump in and work on the EKS or GKE and so on. But when you know how to set up the cluster and what is actually doing on the on-prem, then you get to know how it works in any cloud. So even those things will be covered.
In the monitoring part also, let's say example, one parts are getting increased or any changes are need to be interact. Those kind of things will be taken care from the on-premise side, right?
It would be taken care by Prometheus. It could be on-prem or it could be cloud. Prometheus is a tool which can monitor your container-centric environments like Docker containers or Kubernetes. All of them will be done with Prometheus.
What is monolithic application exam?
Like just a single tire, like you have a Java is used in the application. That's it. It's a UI based, just Java. You don't have anything in the backend, or data is not being stored, or no message queue service. It's a single service. Right, a microservice application is you have PHP and the database, like front end is PHP. If user saves some data from the front end, it is stored at the back end in some DB, or else some message queue services might be used in the application like Kafka, RabbitMQ, and so on. So when your application is comprised of multiple services, that's called microservice app architecture in with respect to containers. So how to deploy such applications, how do you build pipelines for such applications also will be covered. See, for from DevOps perspective, there'll be nothing like how do you build a pipeline for .NET? How do you build a pipeline for PHP? It will not be separate. It would be all same. Only the difference comes in a single tier application, like only one service application is comprised of one service, and another one is multiple services like microservice. That's all. Because I see people coming towards us saying that are we going to cover a project? Project in with respect to DevOps is nothing but CI/CD pipeline building on, it could be monolithic or microservice. So this is the strategy we should learn. So this is the project with respect to DevOps. DevOps project means building CI/CD pipeline. And it would be same for any project. It could be PHP code or Python code, whatever it is. Certain changes will be there. Those will be covered. Means wherever you need to make a change, you will get an understanding. If you know building application, sorry, if building a pipeline on one application, you would be doing it for any application similar way. Only the difference comes when it is microservice. So we are covering that also.
Okay. So Preeti, like as you said, we are also practicing Linux and AWS services practicing. So are we going to use Amazon free service tier instances?
Yes,
And are
we'll
we
be
going to use
creating.
our own account?
Yes, we'll be creating a free account. Everyone will be creating your own free account for the lab setup. Okay, we'll help you how to create a free account, how to use it. Everyone will have your own lab at your convenience for free. So whenever you have time, you can use it. And also that's a realistic approach. In real time, we'll be using some cloud environment so that you will also get you exposed to that. And whereas when it comes to EKS, I am showing it on-prem with a free kind of setup, as well as I'm showing it with a paid service also. It's up to you people whether you will do that part hands-on or not. You have another option, free options also. You can go with it. But I'm just doing it to give you a real exposure.
Okay. So Preeti, paid services will be like on a hourly basis or what?
It depends on each service. It depends on how you use the
No, I'm talking about this on-prem Kubernetes.
on-prem is free. We will show you on-prem kind of setup, which is free for all of you. Wherever I'm going for paid service, particularly EKS paid service, I'll show you. You can just watch it. That is also fine. If you want to do that, how the pricing is all and down, we'll see. It's per hourly actually. It will be hourly pricing. You don't need to go for it, okay? Free services, with free service also you can do. How and all we will learn it. I'll show you.
Yeah, Preeti, sorry to interrupt. Actually, one more question from my side. Let's say example, one monolithic application have some Java-based application, and it has we need to be connected to the databases and API. Those kind of things, it will be triggered in the Kubernetes on-premise, or how it will be the deploying
See,
that. Yeah.
okay, please complete. Deploying on.
Yeah, in on-premise itself, let's say I need the three-tier architecture. One is for web peer
Yeah.
server, and yeah, and one more for the database, one more for the API.
Okay. First thing, whether you deploy it on-prem or on cloud, doesn't mean.
On-premise.
Yeah, my point is your application could be anything. It might be having 10 services or only one service, whatever it is. You can deploy it on-prem or on cloud also. It doesn't have any dependency. Means because it's a microservice, it doesn't need to be deployed on-prem. Or because it's a monolithic, it should go only on a cloud. It's not like that. Okay. So irrespective of how your application architecture is, you can deploy it on either ways. And again on Kubernetes, if you're deploying this microservice application, how you deploy it on-prem would be same as how you deploy it on Kubernetes on AWS. It doesn't make again any difference. Only the difference comes in is suppose you have your Kubernetes cluster on-prem. Okay. Now you deploy the monolithic application here. It is same how you deploy your monolithic application on EKS also. EKS is on cloud. The same, it is same. Then what is the difference? The difference is the way you deploy monolithic on Kubernetes is different from the way you deploy microservice application on Kubernetes. Whether it is on-prem or cloud, it's irrespective. Got the point?
Yeah.
Meaning, let's say you have monolithic application. The way you deploy on Kubernetes is different. Monolithic you deploy differently, microservice you deploy differently. Your Kubernetes cluster might be on-prem or it might be on cloud.
Yeah.
Preeti, like I have one more question.
So one second, let me summarize this. So that's why we were learning two applications, how to deploy microservice and monolithic. Okay, your cluster could be on-prem or your cluster could be on cloud. Okay, the way you deploy the application itself will be different on the cluster itself, on Kubernetes itself. Yes, please.
Yeah, hi Preeti. So I have a question. Like I'm since I'm from automation background, so will this course give me enough confidence to scale my project, automation project, to scale it to the Dockernet and Kubernetes and make it happening with this CI/CD pipeline?
May I know into which automation you are in? You said you are into automation. Which automation you are in?
I have a 12 years of experience in automation, a complete automation,
Automation testing
Selenium,
or automation testing? Okay,
yes, this WebDriver IO and all this,
got it.
TypeScript, yes.
So you are into automation testing. You want to move to a DevOps person or DevOps
So
team?
not exactly like into the DevOps, but I wanted to know like the complete fundamentals of DevOps and wherever it needs, like I'm an individual contributor in my project. So when it required to like process the automation project in completely in CI/CD manner.
Okay,
So
I
if there
got
is
you.
a requirement like we have to like I have to access like automation project to every QA to deploy it on their own, like to run the images of the automation projects.
Got it. So like I said, right, today I mentioned everyone, even though you don't want to become a DevOps person, you want to remain as tester or developer, still you need to know it because see, you come in here, right? You till now you are writing your test case, that to automation test case, and you know how to execute them. You should also know how to execute them in CI/CD pipeline. You might be asking, DevOps people are there, why do you need it? If some test cases fail here, again they'll report to you. You should know. See, here we'll be using container orchestrator like Jenkins. So you should know where like it is failing in your in this particular stage, test case failure, some test case failure. You need to check into the pipeline and see why test case failed. Sometimes it might be the real bug, or sometimes it might be some other stage causing this failure. Right? You should know the end-to-end process of how it is working. That is one reason. Another reason is, like I told you, the way developers are handing over the application changed. Means the way they hand over to QA team also will be changed. They might not be handing over the WAR file. They might be handing over you the Docker image. So you should know how do you run that and test it, right? Also, you may need some environments for your test purpose. You may want to spin up your own environments using Docker containers, correct? So definitely, yes, this will help you to containerize your even your test environments, to understand how developers are sharing you, or else when they give you this Docker containers, how do you run that to test it, right? How do you execute your test cases running on your containers? All of that is going to be again a story which you should learn from the beginning. Yes, definitely that's going to be a help for you. That will help you add value to your project.
Okay.
Exactly, this is
Thank
the
you,
use
Preeti.
case I was mentioning today in the beginning. Even though you are a developer or a tester, you still need to learn it. Of course, let's suppose to how depth you will go, that's the point. Suppose you want to just stick to this phase. You concentrate on Docker. Docker, everyone should know. Jenkins, everyone should learn. You should know how do you run these test cases. But like you should also know how they were integrated, because the failure might be because of the previous stage. So you should have an idea. So you should learn Docker, you should have an idea of Kubernetes, even though you don't need it to the depth, but still you should know Kubernetes, right? So if you know this end-to-end pipeline, these days I'll tell you, DevOps role is not having the strict boundaries, right? In certain projects, even developers will build their particular stages in the pipeline. Testers will build their stages. Like this stage is related to testers. They will have to build the pipeline here. So there were no strict boundaries for DevOps role. Also, in some projects where they don't have enough resources or they will have lack of knowledge in the resources, it's where everyone has to involve in all these stages. So it's good for everyone to sustain in the market in the coming future. Everyone should know these strategies and have an idea. Again, you can pick up the tools where you have to deep dive in. That's as per your role, as per your requirement of your project. But everyone should have an understanding on the entire flow. Have you all completed the quiz? Can I end the quiz so that you will see the results, the right answers? 75% of the people participated. How about the 25%? Any issues in joining the quiz? 76% attendance were there on the quiz.
Preethi, this is Abhishek here.
Hi, Abhishek.
Is it included the AWS cloud formation services also?
Actually, AWS CloudFormation service was there in the course, but after introducing Terraform into the course, we were not concentrating much on CloudFormation because in reality also CloudFormation is less used when you compare with Terraform. Both are similar. CloudFormation, Terraform are similar, but Terraform is very widely used. So we were not getting into CloudFormation, which would be again a similar tool. Rather, we have added other tools in the course like Argo CD and all.
Okay, thank you.
So I am closing the quiz so that you should also see the answers. You might be seeing correct answers as well, right?
Yes,
After
Preethi.
each question. Okay. So this is just a first day class intro and an overview quiz. Every day you will have quiz like this. Okay, you can spend 5 minutes after the class and you can go through that which are present in the quiz portal. Any questions, you can reach out to me. Even I'll get the results once you submit your quiz so that I would also know how well you are going through. And for hands-on and the doubt clarification after the class, there'll be a separate WhatsApp group created with all the registered students. Right now, you are in some WhatsApp group, right? You'll be moved to a separate private WhatsApp group for all the queries during your hands-on or anything you have after the sessions. So that is all about the today's overview. Tomorrow we'll be starting with the hands-on begins tomorrow. So get prepared for that. And yeah, you don't need any prerequisite. That's the session from tomorrow on. Hands-on begins with the real concepts. Any more questions you have? Anything else I can help you with?
Preeti, I have a question which is out of this context. So, Preeti, like whatever the recorded videos you have in your website, so will this contents like all the batches contain the same like content in the videos? So because I
Content would be the same, Nikhil. Like content will be the same for all the batches, which we'll be covering. But each batch will be different, right? Depending their questionnaire might be different. Depending on the questions, we may go ahead. That's how. So you will be getting recordings of everyday class, whatever class you have attended, the live recordings you'll be getting every day.
Okay.
Of your classes, not from some other batch. So this is all from my end. Any questions, you can reach out to Raj. His number is there on the website, or else you can also reach out to me. Okay. All right, then. Thank you all for joining, spending your valuable time over the weekend. Thank you all once again and have a great day. See you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Preeti.
you.
Thanks, Preethi.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.